Okay, now we begin with the writing. All right. In writing, you're going to get two tasks, task one and task two. What actually is IELTS writing? So, IELTS writing is to assess your writing skills. Okay, how well you can write a response relevant to the question, whether you can organize ideas or not, whether you can use range of vocabularies and grammar accurately. So one of the section of IELTS. Okay, so one of the section of IELTS, very important section of IELTS is writing. And yes, so whether you can write a response appropriately, whether you can organize your ideas or not, whether you can use range of vocabularies or grammar accurately or not, that skills are assessed on your writing, right? Okay, so in both academic and general training, there are two writing tasks to complete, task one and task two, right? And academic and general training, only task one is different. So in academic IELTS, you'll have to write, um, you'll have to give a response for data related question, whereas on the general training IELTS, you'll have to write a letter. And in task two, in both of the IELTS, you'll have to write an essay. All right. So your task one should at least be 150 words, and task two should be 250 words. So if you write only 148 or 149 words, you're not going to get marks. Okay. So you have to cross 150 words in task one, while in task two, you'll have to cross 250 words. So the ideal word limit that you're going to write in task one is 150 to 180 words. And in essay or task two, you're going to write 250 to 300 words, right? So why only 150 words to 180 words? So can we not write 200 words, or in essay, can we not write 350 words? What do you think? Why is it ideal to write 150 to 180 in tax 1 and 250 to 300 in tax 2? What do you think, guys? Why is it ideal to write 150 to 180 words only, no more than that? And in essay, why 250 to 300 words, no more than that? What do you think? Why do we not write more or much? किन लेख्नु हुँदैन धेरै 180 वर्ड्स 150 to 180 वर्ड्स आइडियल हुन्छ त्योभन्दा धेरै किन लेख्नु हुँदैन होला 250 वर्ड्स टु 300 वर्ड्स किन धेरै लेख्नु तपाईहरु इंग्लिश बुझ्नुहुन्न guys what's up because of limit time okay others what do you think धेरै किन लेखिँदैन? Covering all the required details along with the coordination between sentence within limited words. Yes, त्यो त हो तर त्यो सब गरेर पनि त 300 वर्ड्स 350 वर्ड्ससम्म लेख्न मिल्छ अल द रिक्वायर्ड डिटेल्सहरू कभर गरेर कोअर्डिनेट गरेर लिमिटेड वर्ड्सहरू विदिन द लिमिटेड वर्ड्स लेखेर पनि टाइम नो आइडिया सर टाइम लिमिट अर रिपिटेसन अफ आइडियाज ओके सो why do we not write more is the more we write the more mistakes we can make right so तपाईँलाई 150 वर्ड्स लेख्नु सही भनेर भनेको छ भने 200 250 वर्ड्सहरू लेख्नु भयो भनेदेखि के हुन्छ त जति धेरै जति धेरै तपाईँले लेख्नुहुन्छ त्यति मिस्टेक्स गर्ने चान्सेसहरू हुन्छ तपाईँलाई 150 वर्ड्स लेख्नु भनेको छ ओके फाइन यु हेभ रिटन लाइक 155 60 70 वर्ड्स भने त्योभन्दा बढी लेख्न पर्ने जरुरी छैन जति धेरै लेख्नुहुन्छ त्यति धेरै मिस्टेक्स your examiner can assess your marks on those mistakes as well right so that is the reason it's ideal to write in those word limit right? Okay, so the IELTS writing test takes 60 minutes in total. Okay, so you are advised to spend 20 minutes on task 1 and 40 minutes on task 2. Okay, so you'll have to give your time. Likewise, for 60 minutes time frame, you have to allocate 20 minutes for your task 1 and 40 minutes for your task 2 and the marks is on 1:2 ratio, which means tax 2 is twice important than tax 1. Okay, so the marks in tax 2 is worth twice many marks as tax 1. And so the writer, the examiner who is assessing your writing, they are looking at few things. They are assessing few things, which we also call marking criterias. Okay, marking criterias means on the basis of these things, your examiners are going to give you marks. Okay, so what do you have to look at when you are writing a response to the question or maybe it might be a data question or it might be an essay question either in tax 1 or tax 2. These marking criterias are very important. Okay, so the marking criterias are task achievement or response, coherence and cohesion, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy, right? So these are the four marking criterias. If you do not remember this, please write it down, okay? So that every time you are writing a response to a question, you'll have to check whether you have written or whether your writing has these four marking criterias or not. If you have not fulfilled one one out of these four marking criterias, you're not going to get marks, right? Okay, if you can, please write it down. I'm going to ask you later as well. What are the marking criterias? Okay. All right. Can we move forward? Okay. Now, about your mm, marking criterias. Let's see over here. Okay. So the table here shows IELTS writing marking criteria for both the tax. So tax 1 ko lagi and tax 2 ko lagi, right? So for tax 1, we call it tax achievement, right? And for task 2, we call it task response, the very first marking criteria. Okay. So what do you mean by task achievement? So task achievement means how appropriately, relevantly, and accurately you are answering the question. Okay. Whether it is um, whether the response is or whether the writing is relevant to the question or not, right? Is it accurate? And y- you are not expected to speculate, think, or explain any areas that lie outside the material, which means you can't go off the topic. So, what is asked by the topic? You have to answer that, and your answers must be 150 words in length. Okay, so this is how you achieve the task. So, whatever is asked in the question, you being able to answer those, giving responses on the basis of the question makes you achieve the marking criteria, which is task achievement. And in task 2, we call it task response. So this refers to the ability of the candidate to develop a position in relation to a question or statement, which means about the issues, about about the questions, whatever is asked in the essay. If you are able to discuss and speculate your ideas with your evidences and examples, with the facts, then you have achieved the task response criteria. And responses should be at least 250 words in length. 250 वर्ड चाहिँ तपाईँले लेख्नु पर्यो र you have to give evidences, examples, evidenceहरू दिनु पर्यो, examples दिनु पर्यो, right? And another marking criteria after task achievement response is coherence and cohesion. Now, this is very important, coherence and cohesion, right? Coherence and cohesion means overall fluency of the message. Coherence and cohesion भन्ने कसैले सुन्नु भएको थियो पहिला? Did you guys hear? Have you guys heard about it? Coherence and cohesion. What is it, Saroj? कसलाई थाहा छ भन्नुहोस् त? थाहा छ भने थाहा छ भन्नुहोस्, थाहा छैन भने थाहा छैन भन्नुहोस्। तपाईँहरू सुतिरहनु भएको छ क्या हो? Logical and clear. तपाईँहरू रेस्पोन्ड नगर्ने भए म पढाउँदै पढाउँदिनँ। That's it. Being logical and grammatical, cohesion, link type, however, furthermore, ideas are clear, logical and easy to follow, sentences are correct. Yes. So here we are referring to coherence and cohesion as overall fluency of the message, right? So overall fluency of the message means structured answers in a logical order using cohesive devices, transition of your ideas, clear progression throughout your writing. यसैलाई नै हामीले coherence and cohesion भनिन्छ, right? Okay. Now let's see यहाँ पनि दिएछ है coherence. Coherence and cohesion are being able to use a variety of different phrases and linking words in order to write a well organized and well structured essay, right? And logical coherence refers to logical organization of ideas in paragraphs, logical sequencing of ideas within paragraphs, use of transition words and phrases to aid understanding. So, and cohesion refers to how the whole text flows and links together logically, right? So, use of transition words, linking words, connecting words, these are cohesion. So, either in task 1 or task 2, whether you are writing data related questions or whether you are writing an essay, so there is a specific format of you writing things, right? So first of all, you write the introduction, and then you give the body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2, and then you give the overview or the conclusion, right? So this is how your essay or your writing looks structured. So the structure or logical sequencing or the organization is in the overall writing as well, and in a particular paragraph as well, right? So everywhere there is logical sequencing or logical organization of your ideas. That is coherence, right? So in the first part, in the introduction part, you are going to write 3 to 4 sentences, which is around 50 words, right? Paraphrasing the topic. And in body paragraph 1, you give one idea. And in body paragraph 2, you give second idea. And then at last, in conclusion, you write the summary of the main points, right? You write a summary. So this is how you're going to. Can you please give some examples? I don't get it. Okay, so this we discuss in detail in other classes as well, but तै पनि म तपाईले सोधिहाल्नु भएको भएर I'm going to answer this. Coherence means um, you explaining the ideas one after other. So एउटा कुरा के हुन्छ भने whenever you are writing a thing, you give an idea, right? एउटा आइडिया हामीले पोर्ट्रे गरिन्छ, कुनै पनि डेटा रिलेटेड होस्, कुनै एसेजहरू लेखिरहेको होस्. Let's suppose you're writing advantage disadvantage essays, right? And you are about to mention about the advantages एउटा paragraphमा. So what do? When you write one advantage, then you give example for it, reason why that advantage, and you give the facts about that advantage, and then you conclude that idea or you conclude that advantage. So this is the logical sequencing. Okay, so बच्चामा हामीले के गर्थ्यौं त पहिला when we are at school, what you used to do is we used to give like, okay, so this are the advantages, so we have to do this, right? So this is not logical sequencing. Logical sequencing means describing an idea, giving relevant examples, giving relevant evidences, giving relevant facts, concluding that idea and moving on to next idea, right? That is called clear progression or It's logical. It's in a logical sequence, right? And to achieve that, to achieve the coherence, we use the cohesive devices. So cohesive devices means transition words, linking words, connecting words, which means, for example, if you are describing something similar, right? Similar कुरा के describe गर्दै हुनुहुन्छ भनेदेखि what do you do? You use furthermore, moreover, additionally, right? These are the transition words. And whenever you are describing something opposite, you're using however, in spite of, despite of. Whenever you are concluding something, you're writing to conclude, all in all, therefore. So these are also transition signals, right? So using this so that your reader, the reader of your writing, follows your ideas properly. So this is called coherence and cohesion. Got it, Subeksha? Okay. All right. So this is coherence and cohesion, right? Now we move on to lexical resources. Lexical resources means vocabulary, the kind types of word that you are going to use, the relevancy of those words, you using the words appropriately, right? So these comes under lexical resources, right? So lexical resources or resource is very important if you are aiming for a higher band. There are different types of words and phrases you use while you are writing, but it's very important that the words you are using, the phrases you are using are relevant to the question, right? And your writing should be a mixture of advanced vocabularies plus simple vocabularies, right? Your sentences must consist the words that are relevant to the topic. So this is called lexical resource. So for example, whenever you are describing a data, let's suppose you are describing a line graph, right? There is a line graph that you have to discuss. There are categories, there are data that are given, right? Some of the data or some of the categories are moving up, coming down. Some of them are constant. Some of them are either rising up, again coming down, again going up. Then you might get these types of varieties of data, right? And there might be a bar graph, there might be a pie chart, there might be a table diagram, right? And for those questions, what types of vocabularies you are going to use, right? And um, how relevant it is to use for line graph, either bar graph or pie chart or any other questions. So using the vocabulary, you should be careful that you should use relevant vocabularies, right? So if you are describing a trend in a chart or a graph, if the data is moving upwards, then you are going to use words like increased, grew, grow, right? And if it is downwards, then you are going to write decline, dip, dropped, right? And if there is more than one movement, which means if it goes up and then comes down, or it remains constant, or if there is more movement, then what you call it, reached a peak, fluctuated, recovered, right? And if there is no movement, then remain stable, constant, reach a plateau, right? What do you mean by plateau? Do you guys know what is plateau? What is plateau? Do you guys know what is plateau? Same level surface. सो तराईलाई प्लट्यु भन्न मिल्छ? हाम्रो कन्ट्रीको तराई रिजनलाई प्लट्यु भन्न मिल्छ? सेम लेभल सर्फेस? Okay. Plateau means these type of surface, right? If something is like this, and this, right? So this top part is called plateau. All right. Okay. So the data might be those, right? So it went up and then again it was constant, it fell down. So we call those plateaus. All right. Okay. So using these vocabs, using relating verbs and nouns, when you're using it with adjective, you use words like a gradual fall, a strong decline, a small dip, a huge increase, fell gradually, declined strongly, dipped slightly, increased immensely, right? So these are the adjectives or um, verb, adverb, or adjective plus noun you are using whenever you are describing a data. Now, while you're comparing between two datas, you're also going to use the language of comparison, right? The lowest, by far the highest, the majority of, a large percentage of, right? When you are comparing between two datas. And the spelling also comes in your vocabulary. So your spellings also should be correct, right? Okay, so is there any confusion till now? Okay, so after this, the last criteria or the last marking criteria. So, okay, so one thing you should be careful about the um, words which has these kinds of spellings, right? So someone might be struggling with this kinds of spellings as well, just like considerably, phenomenon, right? And accommodation, steadily, proportion. So spelling for these things. So be careful about these as well. So the another one is grammatical range and accuracy. So grammatical range and accuracy, inside grammatical range and accuracy, you'll have to know how to use both simple and complex sentences, right? So what do you mean by simple and complex sentences? Do you know? Have you guys any idea? Do you have any ideas? What actually is simple and complex sentences? Okay, simple and complex sentences means simple sentence means um, which has only one independent clause or only one independent sentence, that is called simple sentence, right? Compound sentence means consisting of two independent clause or two independent sentence which are not related to each other. Complex sentence means two individual sentence, sorry, two sentences, one independent and another one dependent sentence, right? Or dependent clause. So, for example, simple sentence, the dog barks, right? That is simple sentence. Compound sentence, the dog barked and the cat meowed. That is compound sentence. Complex sentence, the dog barked because he saw a cat. That is complex sentence. So this is simple and complex sentence. So you must be able to use both simple and complex sentences. Now, using correct punctuation. Correct punctuation means using commas, full stops, exclamation, question marks very properly. Okay, and using the correct verb subject agreement. So if you're using singular noun, plural noun, singular verb, right? So in which context, which verb you're going to use for what subject, you should be knowing that. Another one, using the correct tense consistently. If the data is about past, you're going to discuss everything in past. If the data is about present, in present, and if the data is about future, you're going to discuss it in future tense. And sometimes mixture of all the sentence might be required as the data might be from the past, present, and future, right? So you should be able to use the tenses correctly. And editing their own or each other's essay, which means if your grammar is good, if you know what you are writing, then you are able to edit your own or your friends or other people's essay or your other people's writing. So your grammar should be that good and accurate, right? Okay. Now, every time you get a question, first of all, you should analyze what kind of question is it. Is it a pie chart, line graph, bar chart, process diagram, map? And you should be forming an opinion what the question is actually about. Now, what is asked in the question? You should be identifying the keywords and you should be thinking about what is written there. You should understand the meaning of the gist and you should be able to interpret the topic of that question. And you should be looking carefully at the datas, the x-axis, y-axis, the categories, the percentage, the data, right? The trends, you should be looking carefully. And before writing, it's very crucial for you to plan for 2 to 3 minutes. So whenever after you get your question, you don't straight away write the response to that question. What you do is you're going to plan your writing, right? And what supporting datas, what comparison that you need to make, you have to and what details are given in the question, how to portray those, you have to plan those. And then only you start your writing, you present your overviews, you check whether all the features, all the things, relevant things are mentioned or not, right? And you present your writing. So this is how you're going to um, approach the question. All right. Is there any confusion? Do you guys have any confusion till now? Okay. So now for 1 week, we are going to study task one of writing, and the next week, we are going to study task two of this writing. Okay. So 1 week for each of them, and we are going to study task one and task two individually. First of all, we are going to read introduction. Um, we're going to learn how to write body paragraphs. We're going to learn how to write conclusion, right? And we do the exercises as well. Okay. So yes. So for today, this much. Okay. And I'll start with introduction for task one tomorrow. All right. And we'll be seeing the questions, and we'll be doing the exercises as well. So till tomorrow, signing off. Have a good night, great night. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Good night, everyone.